No worries, man. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of In Lay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Ascari, and I have a very special guest today. It's Mr. James Stewart. Welcome, James.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making time from your busy schedule to come on. You and I have been in talks for a very long time, a couple of months, and apologies, I dragged my feet. I never got around to it. So we didn't get to it in 2024, but you're here 2025. So thank you.
Thank you. 2025, the year of the snake. It's a crazy year already. It's off to a big start, big banging start. But no, Payman, you've had some awesome guests on, and I just hope that I can continue the trend of being an interesting and an awesome guest. And I just want to say thank you again for giving me this opportunity to tell my story. I think it's very important for Canadians. It'll be 13 years come August here, in August 2025 here. The original incident, I call it, was on August 24th, 2012. And it's been one heck of a battle, all the way through this. And I'm still, I guess you could say I'm still fighting. But now it's just through my sword, my words. I've written a book, and it's on my website, and I've got a little bit of a blog, and I'm just trying to get the story out. I'm just trying to let people know, because the media will not touch it. And I believe really Canada is headed in a really dangerous direction, and has been for quite some time. And because of that, I feel that we're not getting any type of media exposure or anything that the media is there for, our protection and our exposure to show what's going on to average everyday Canadians that are basically being I've seen some of your guests, and what has happened to some of them. They financially destroyed, physically destroyed, mentally destroyed, and it's been a really long 13 years. So, if you want, do you want me to just get started, sort of, with the story itself?
Yeah, let me just make an announcement. I got three crazy dogs here, so if they start barking, I'll quickly mute my mic. But other than that, why don't you take it away, James? You can start anyway and tell us your story.
Okay, thank you very much. So back in the day, before, I guess, even August 2012, I had some issues, I guess, with the way the world was going. You look at 9/11, and you look at all these different things that don't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And so I really noticed that there was a lot of government intervention in people's lives. I really felt that the government was almost commoditizing everything to do with our lives, where you had to pay and pay and pay, and they called it a free country. They called Canada a free country, but it was really, it's only free after you paid for it. And so one of the things we really noticed was just how the police were really going after people. It was like an overreach, and they were really interjecting into every little aspect of your life. And so my brother and I were kind of getting sick of that in a certain way. And one of the things I decided to do was I decided to sort of make an experiment. And the experiment was, how much power do these people have over you, and how much freedom do we really have as Canadians? Everyone loves to say Canada's a free country. And I guess I wanted to sort of put that to the test. And one of the ways I did that was through insurance and registration on our vehicles. And my brother and I decided not to put insurance on the car. And we were never crazy drivers or anything like that. But we just decided, hey, you know what? We're just not going to put insurance in the car. We're not going to put a license plate on the car. We're just going to go about our daily lives. And through that, one of the things that the government does is they give you a driver's license. And so they make you a driver. And you're not a driver. You're just a person who wants to travel from A to B. And Canada's a great, giant, big country. And so you need to travel. But they make you a driver, and it's like the act. And the Traffic Safety Act, and they get all these acts, and they fool people into becoming drivers or becoming this. And so it's the act of commerce, or this trafficking. And so they have this Traffic Safety Act, and of course it's all about safety. And so we drove into town on August 12th, 2012, and we were tailed by a police officer that we had no idea until he pulled into this parking lot behind us, because we were going to get I was going to take my brother for dinner, and we were going to go into this, get some mail. And lo and behold, there was an unmarked car behind us who pulled into the parking lot right behind us. And right off the bat, you have to understand the Traffic Safety Act. And the Traffic Safety Act is basically something that gives police jurisdiction, because it's all about safety. And one of the things it gives them jurisdiction on is the highway. And that's why when the police pull you over, you're pulled over on the highway. We went to park the car into a parking lot because that's where we were going. He was behind us in an unmarked car. He says he chirped the siren. He didn't. And when we got out of the car, he was directly behind us in this parking lot. And he immediately said, because we got out of the car, we didn't know he was behind us. And he immediately said on his loudspeaker, "Get back in the car. Get back in the car right now." And I'd walked out of the car. I was running shotgun, the passenger. And my brother, he got out of the car, and I started walking to Shoppers Drug Mart because we were going to get mail and I actually had to use the restroom. And my brother said, "No, you don't have to order us around. Like, I'm not doing that. Because if you go back into the car, that's technically the car is a weapon, right? Or you go back in the car and get your flamethrower out or your machine gun out or whatever it happens to be. You go back into the car." My brother said, "No, I'm not getting back in the car." And instantly, this cop, Constable Jay Keating, was like, "That's it." And he ran at my brother and he armbarred my brother and he grabbed my brother, put him in an armbar, and instantly got behind him. And he said, "What's your name?" And this, Payman, this is the most incredible story you will ever hear. My brother said, "My name is Jarvis. What's yours?" And when people read my book and they see this, all of the audio has disappeared. All of this audio, all the video, they've cherry-picked one little aspect of his car, but all of the audio disappears. And it's very important that they make this audio disappear because his whole story, the cop, Jay Keating's story, completely falls flat on its face in the first 10 seconds of this. Because this is where the Traffic Safety Act is abused. Well, cops in general, they know the law, and so they abuse it. And like you were saying earlier before we went live, they're able to just get these slightest little perspectives of things, and then the judges and the courts will take their side. And in the Traffic Safety Act, there's a number of things that you can basically transfer or transmogrify, if you will, from the driver's what they call a safety offense ticket into a criminal violation. And one of them is not identifying yourself to a police officer. And that's what they said my brother did. They said he refused to identify himself. But he did identify himself. They took it upon themselves to erase all the audio and video. That's how easy and simple, and for lack of a better term, juvenile this has become. We knew the rules. They knew the rules, and they made all the audio disappear. And that helps their story, because without the audio, you can't say, "Well, I was totally identified myself." "Oh, no, you didn't. We didn't hear you say you identified yourself." And that's literally how it began. And that they said that Jarvis refused to identify himself. And then through that interaction, I objected to how he was basically treating my brother. He assaulted my brother. He ran directly up into my brother, put him into an armbar, got behind my brother, used him as a shield. I had to come around the unmarked cop car. And you'll see that. It's the only video. I get out of the car, our little white Celica, and I come around the car. And of course, there's no audio. Imagine that. It's ridiculous. Those cameras were there to protect me as well, but they make all the audio disappear. And through the course of that incident, I call it an incident, this Constable Jay Keating called backup. And he didn't even identify himself. He didn't even identify himself to dispatch, because in the course of the interaction, I stayed back. I stayed well back. I did all I could to give him lots of distance. And I guess through this interaction, he was able to call, or somehow able to call, backup. And through our court process, which I can get into, it's a hell of a story, baby. The court process, we got the dispatch audio, and we believe that was edited as well. We believe they cut and pasted and were able to. But in the dispatch audio, the officer who's on the dispatch call basically said the same thing. "Who is this?" Because it's like anything. Like you can't just call backup. Like, "I need backup. I need backup." Well, why do you need backup? Who's calling? Did somebody Did somebody beat up the cop and they're calling back up and they've got machine guns ready for when more cops show up? So when more cops show up, they can shoot all the police. Like, and so even in the dispatch audio, the officer, the dispatch officer says, "Who is this and what's going on?" And Jake Keating refused to identify himself. And one of the other officers who are close by, they chimed in, "Oh, that sounds like Jake Keating. It sounds like he's in trouble." And sure enough, Jake Keating played coy enough that he got it's like the little boy who cried wolf. And he got everybody all upset because Jake Keating's a great big man. He's like 6'7". So obviously if a great big man who's 6'7" is having problems, then there must be a problem. Of course, there wasn't a problem, but he played it off like there was a problem. 10 cars, Payman. 10 cars ultimately showed up. We got the GPS records of the 10 cars that showed up. They were all supposed to have audio and video cameras. You know, there was a whole thing about the Saskatoon police and their cameras. The 10 cars showed up. And I got my ass kicked. I got beat like you wouldn't believe. And I never did anything. I never even put up a fight. I didn't do anything. And I basically was just, my whole thing was objecting to the treatment of my brother. And they treated us like criminals. And I have everything on my website, justcallmestu.com. I have the criminal transcripts. I have everything. And they basically charged me with 2 counts of assault after they kicked my ass. Like I said, I would never have believed it had it not happened to me. And to this day, I still don't believe it. And so in the course of that,
Can I jump in?
Absolutely.
Let's go from the beginning. You mentioned the Traffic Act. If there is no what is a police officer? If there's no Traffic Act, is there anything in the Constitution that says the government can arrest you?
I'm not sure exactly that they can just straight up arrest you. See, the police are actually rented. They're rented by the government insurance. So in Saskatchewan, like in where I live now in British Columbia, we have ICBC, which is the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia. And in Saskatchewan, it's called SGI, which is Saskatchewan Governmental Insurance. And so everything to do with the police is a revenue generating machine. And this is what my experiment and my years of going, through how Canada really works and where money comes from. And we could go on some deep dives, but that's not where this show is going to go. I just want to talk about my book and the situation that happened to my brother and I. But basically, SGI rents police, and they're called a peace officer. How ironic. And people don't understand this and they don't know this. And so the Traffic Safety Act is what their jurisdiction then is. They're no longer like police officers. Like obviously if they see a crime being committed, they will go. But basically their job is to look for seatbelt infractions and speeding and trafficking, like the vehicles. So it'd be like a farmer taking his tomatoes to the market, and he's using the road to take his tomatoes to the market. I'm just getting in my car and traveling to go see my friend. But the government wants you to believe that you're trafficking. And that's why it's the Traffic Safety Act. And that's why you have a driver's license, and it's based on commerce. And then you alluded to earlier, we talked about natural law. We get into natural law. We can get into maritime admiralty law. We can get into common law. And it gets a little too complicated. And I'm not a lawyer and I'm not giving legal advice. But these are the things that my brother and I were looking into. We're saying this is not fair. This is a total encroachment on our daily lives. And you're basically abusing these privileges and abusing these rights. And so that's sort of where it came from. So the cops are like, I call them like CEOs. They're not cops, but they're like enforcement officers, because they're enforcing for the crown the money, and they're taking from the people. And that's why you go and get a speeding ticket. You haven't hurt anyone. You understand? There's no one's been hurt, because natural law basically, if every Canadian, this is it in a nutshell, Payman. Do no harm, cause no loss, live your life. And that's more or less natural law. I mean, we have common. I don't want to get into it. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not pretending to be a lawyer, but that's basically where we are. And they have commoditized everything in our lives. And then once you break these little rules, then they just charge you more money. And that's sort of what my brother and I basically came to the conclusion that there's no good outcome. This is only going to get worse for Canadians. And some of your incredible guests have proven that now, not only getting lawyers, but these police have gone to the municipalities. They've taken, they've gone after their mortgage payments. They've prevented people from paying certain taxes. They've basically weaponized these people using money. And so this is like the worst nightmare ever, because I saw this, my brother and I saw this 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago, as I was learning and developing and understanding, where I live and where I come from and what this country really is. And it culminated on August 12th in this incident in the parking lot. And everything I thought about Canada and everything that I respected and loved about Canada, right out the window. So anyway, I'm not sure but where I kind of left off. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I got another follow-up question. So the cop pulls up and tells your brother, get back in the car.
Yeah.
Can they do that? Like, can the police officer tell you where to go and where not to go?
He can tell you whatever he wants. He can tell you to hop on one leg and touch your toes and, do. You don't have to do it. You're not under any legal obligation to do so. If he sees you like shooting somebody, or inflicting damage to someone, he has all kinds of legal and lawful jurisdiction to prevent you from doing these things. But this is what happens. And they're the most amazing people, these police officers, because they have no patience. They're the ones working. They're getting paid hourly or salary. I don't even know. But they have no patience, like literally no patience. And that's literally what happened. He was, get back in the car right now. And he said, that's it. Like your little allotted time, like the 10-second ticker just expired. And so he's just going into action. And that's exactly what happened. And so we disobeyed a lawful command, which is entirely untrue. It's entirely untrue. And that's another reason why the audio disappeared, because now they have you by the short and curlies, because it's their word against yours. And you don't have any protection. There's nothing. It's just like being in the schoolyard when you're 10 years old and 10 kids come along and say, teacher, they were throwing rocks at the birds, or they broke a window. Nobody goes and looks and sees. They just take the kids' words for it. And this is literally what they did, is they took the police words for it. They didn't have any audio.
That was the next question I was going to ask. Like, this entire system, where you have the police that are the investigators, they get the evidence, whatever, and then you go to trial. It's all predicated on the police actually telling the truth.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
And the judge almost always defers to the cop as opposed to the criminal, alleged criminal.
It was awful. I mean, we went through 7-8 months of pretrial mediation, they call it, where we tried to get audio, video. They admit on the stand, when we finally got coerced into going to criminal trial, the cops actually admitted on the stand that they used force. Well, we have checks and balances in this country. So where's the use of force reports? If you used force on a person, you need to justify why you used force on a person. Like, these people think, well, you're under arrest, so now we can just kick your ass. We're going to get our hands on you. Like, it's amazing, because you can arrest somebody without touching them. Like, you don't physically have to put your hand on them and say, hey, you under arrest. You can say, stop what you're doing. You're now under arrest because we believe you violated this, or, they see somebody shoot, or, whatever, hit your girlfriend. Stop what you're doing. We believe, you're now under arrest. We believe if you continue this action that you're doing, more people will be hurt, et cetera, et cetera. But that's literally it. You don't actually have to put your hands on anyone to tell them they're under arrest. You can just say that. But these guys put their hands on me, and they had all got worked up because Jake Keating called for backup, and he was being very, very coy. When you listen to the dispatch records, he's not explaining things. And so of course all these guys show up, hey, and he basically said, take him down now. And I remember being like, whoa, like, whoa, like, what? Like, you don't have to. And so the two guys tried to tackle me, and then I have it all in my book. You can read it all. It's the most amazing thing. And there's no audio. And then the second car that showed up, the very second car, because his car was unmarked. And so you think, okay, if this is an unmarked car, you should have all the bells and whistles in this car. You should have all the cameras. You should have all the microphones. You should have all the equipment. And he even admitted in trial that it's a test phase, but then he's the one driving it, and he hasn't been trained on it. which is like the contradictions from these people are off the charts. And the judge just goes along with it. He had no discernment whatsoever, didn't hold their feet to the fire at all. Any little thing that they said, even if it was completely contradictory to the previous sentence, like I said, use of force reports. Where's the use of force reports? Well, we admitted we used force. Well, where's the use of force reports? Or they said, James was rubbing his face on the pavement. Like literally, they were on one of the cops basically said James was the one who was giving himself scratches on the pavement. And you're like, well, okay, like how or why? Oh, well, because he was getting sympathy from the crowd because it was a busy night. It was what's called Saskatoon cruise weekend. And then so you say, okay, well, where's the witness statements? There's lots of people around. Like there's a big crowd of people. Where are the witness statements? No witness statements. So, I mean, at that point, you're just like, wow, you've just basically torpedoed the shit out of me. Pardon my language, but I have no recourse whatsoever. You've basically thrown away all the audio and video. You've lied through your teeth. And there's Jarvis and I saying, like, what else are we supposed to do? Like, I have absolutely nothing to defend myself with. And so we were pretty polite. They wanted us to be these freemen on the land. Oh, you don't believe in our laws. And it's like, no, it's got nothing to do with that. It's got everything to do with I'm a Canadian and there's certain rules and laws and regulations. And I'm happy to follow them if you will. But they didn't. And so I had to write the book. I was forced to write this book. And it's been one of the hardest things I've ever done is actually try to put this book together. And I put it on my website. And one day I hope to get it published into a like an actual book, like a soft cover book. But anyone can go and read it. It's all there. I should probably edit it a little bit more, but I finished it last March. And yeah, there you go. Book.
Bringing it up. There we go.
Down below right there. And there's the download. And so there's my mugshot, and I've posted some pictures, and it's free to all. Anyone in Canada, anyone in the world can read it. Go ahead and read it. I'm not charging anyone any money. I have a ton of debt that I've still had to deal with this, but I work hard. I'm a Red Seal plumber and a gas fitter, and I have a 9 to 5, 7:30 or 7 o'clock to 3:30 job. I work 40 hours a week, and to put a roof over my head. And I'm putting this out for all of Canada to read. This is what happened to me, and this can easily happen to you. And no word of a lie. This is the thing, Payman. In Canada, we're all the bad guys. You're a bad guy. I'm a bad guy. We're all bad guys because the cops are the good guys. And that's it. That's all you have to know. And anytime you have an interaction with them, they're the good guys. And they've become so empowered with this that even when you're right, like my brother and I were right, we knew the rules. If right off the bat, if Jake Keating had said, "What's your name?" and my brother said, "My name's Mickey Mouse, motherfucker," then the cop would say, "Okay, Mickey Mouse, I'll go back to my computer and I will type Mickey Mouse. And oh, lo and behold, the picture of Mickey Mouse doesn't match your face. That's obstruction. And that is an instant criminal offense." My brother said, "Oh, my name's Jarvis. What's yours?" And that is why all the audio is gone, because it blows their whole story out of the water. And so they didn't think that I was actually astute enough to write a book about this. They just figured I was a stupid plumber. And so
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So if you have a law-abiding citizen, you got like a 90-year-old woman, she's at the end of her life, and the cop comes up to her and says, "What's your name?" And she says, "Get out of my face, young man." That's a criminal offense.
They'll turn it into one. Like, look at what happened at the Freedom Convoy they ran over people with horses and stuff. Like it's out of control. It's out of control.
No, I get that. Like the country's out of control, but our way of life is out of control. But are you telling me that like human beings do not have the right to walk away from a police officer? Not that when you're not being charged for arrest.
Yeah, see, that's the gray area. You'll see plenty of criminal prosecutors that will lick their chops. They want you in the system. They want you convicted. They want to find you guilty. The system hates to lose, and it will do everything it can to win, even if it breaks its own rules. And that's what they want. I mean, if I had been charged, or if I had been found guilty I was charged with obstruction, which was just totally bogus, but I was charged with, very important here, very important, I was charged with 2 counts of assaulting a peace officer. Not 1 count, because 1 count's just an accident. Maybe I swung and caught him with an elbow, and that was, in the course of the, the arrest. But 2 counts, because 2 counts means you did it on purpose. And 2 counts means you're probably going to jail. And if I had been convicted and found guilty of those 2 charges, I would have had a criminal record. And good luck finding a job, or good luck traveling down to America or whatever. And this is what they do. And then some of your guests, Mr. Mike Jackson and some other people, they will go after you financially. They will do anything they can because the system hates to lose. And this is literally, Payman, this is almost where my brother and I were on this. We're like, wait a minute. Like, these people have far, far too much power in this free country of Canada. And we learned very, very quickly what these people are capable of doing, all the way up. Don't even get me wrong. I mean, this is not just the cops. This is politicians. This is the judges. And most importantly, this is the media. The media has completely let Canadians down. They haven't shown anything to do with this. I haven't had one single person, any journalist, any independent journalist, any person come to me and say, James, I'd like to know more about your story. I think it's important for Canadians. And God bless you, Payman. And you weren't even born in Canada. You're an Iranian. So I thank you again for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
No, it's not. I'm happy to help. This is just fun for me. I want to go back. I'm going to give another analogy of what happened to you. Imagine like you have a kid, this fat little boy, 8 years old. He's walking along the street, and the cops pull up. Be like, "Yo, fat ass, where are you going?" And then the kid's like, "Leave me alone." So he's walking away. Cops get out. They put their hands on the kid. The kid's like, "Leave me alone, get off me." And then they charge him for assaulting a police officer. That's what happened to you, right?
Yep, basically, yeah. And then they throw away all the audio and video that could even have any ability for that little boy to protect himself, right? And because that was the thing. They want to pretend that we escaped into this parking lot. Like, that was our intention, was going into this parking lot. And Jake Keating, I'm not going to call him a liar, but all he did was lie through his teeth. But he says he chirped the sirens like he was like behind us. See, here's the thing. If we were down the road a ways back and we were speeding, or the car was belching flames, or, I had dead hookers falling out of the car, and we were running down the street, and then we saw the cop come, and we're like, oh, let's just pull into the parking lot. Let's just get into this parking lot, because that's not his jurisdiction. Because in the Traffic Safety Act, like I wrote in my book, a parking lot is not the jurisdiction of the police. That's why it's called the Highway Traffic Safety Act. The parking lot is for parking and doing other things. You can't pull over in a parking lot. You park in a parking lot. That's why they don't like you, jumping into the parking lot. We didn't do that. We didn't even know he was behind us. And he says he chirped the siren. Another reason why there's no audio. It's a great game when you never lose. I'm a betting man, and every time I bet, I win. Like, if there's no audio, there's no one to say, you didn't chirp the siren. And we said, he didn't chirp the siren. There's no siren. We didn't hear anything. There was nothing. And he doesn't even turn the blinkers on, the flashing lights on, until we're going through the intersection into this parking lot. And so, of course, both judges, Albert Lavoie, terrible human being, and then Judge Barry Singer, one of the biggest assholes I've ever had the misfortune of meeting, was just a total antagonistic prick. He let them contradict themselves. The hypocrisy was out of control. And so I put that whole criminal trial. I had to pay for all of this. I had to get, the amount of money I had to pay these people to get what was rightfully mine. But I put that whole criminal trial on my website. I put it right in the top, criminal trial. You can bring it back up if you want. You can show people. And if you can read between the lines and you can hear his tone, if you go back one and you can hear his tone, anything they said, he just took at face value. Anything, go back up to the top. Yeah, all the way back up. And then in the little thing there, it'll say criminal trial. Yeah, right there, criminal trial. And there's the transcripts. And there's the first part was when we went to court. And then the second one, the May 3rd, was when we had to come back for sentencing, because they just drag you out and it's unbelievable what they did to me. And I know people don't have a lot of time, but it's all there and it's all free, and you can look at it yourself, and you take some time to digest it. But that's what these people did. And it didn't matter what Jarvis and I said. They didn't care. Even if, like I said earlier, even if the judges completely contradicted, or the police completely contradicted themselves. Like I said, oh yeah, we used force, but they had no use of force reports. Or did you see damage to his face? Oh, he probably had damage to his face before. It's like, yeah, I'm walking around with a bloody nose and smashed cheeks. They accused me of spitting blood. They accused me of spitting blood at officers. And it's just like, wow, how do you normally spit? Like, how do you normally spit blood? You know, like, does blood just come out like a natural defense? It's like those lizards. I make the little joke, those little lizards in the desert or whatever. They spit blood when they're scared, you know? And they literally put a bag over my head because I was spitting blood at officers. Like, they just turn you into the most hardened criminal. I think I've had one speeding ticket my entire life. Like, I've never been in trouble with the law. I've always been an upstanding citizen. I was a substitute teacher back in PEI in one of my other lives. I've had many lives. But they will turn you into a hardened criminal. And like we said, we had some stuff in the car. We're like, hey, you know what? We don't really appreciate like the police overreach. And we had some stuff in the car. They took the keys out of my brother's pockets and they went in and they searched the car, because then they tried to get us on a stolen car or stolen property, or we were running drugs. Because that's the other thing with the Traffic Safety Act, that you can instantly transmogrify into criminal intent. They love the criminal intent. Oh, you had intent or a criminal activity. And so it was our car. Jarvis had paid cash for it. He purchased it through SGI, the salvage thing or whatever. It was a fixer-upper. And they went through the car, and you can see they don't care about us. In the one video, they're into the car instantly, looking at the back, looking at this, looking at that. And then they finally find some stuff in the glove box because they're pretending that they didn't know who we were. All because that's how they turn you into a criminal. And just like that, turn you into a criminal. And this is kind of why I need to tell everyone this, because they're the good guys. And that means everyone else is a bad guy. And I was going to say there's a couple cases, R versus Martin and R versus Affleck. And one was a man in Saskatoon and one was a woman in Nova Scotia. And Jay Keating was involved in both of those cases. And I could even give you the numbers for them. They have, this is the other thing. This is payment. It's crazy, guy. They have the court decisions by the judges, the written decisions that shows the judge's state of mind and how he came to his decision on there's nothing. I have nothing. There's nothing. It's all off the books. It's completely off the record books. Once again, I never would have believed this had it not happened to me. I still don't believe it, because we've totally got kangaroo courted, star chamber, whatever you want to call it. They literally cooked me and my brother off the books. And
so before getting into the case, basically you had a car that didn't have a license plate, and the cops, instead of pulling you over on the road, they pulled you over in a parking lot. Instead of saying you're under arrest or these are the charges, he's like, get back in your car. And then your brother identifies himself, but the cop like overreacted. Basically, the cops completely overreacted.
Yeah, he figures that we were bad guys. Like, he just assumed, and you can't do that, obviously, as a cop. See, what he should have done, even if you look at the jurisdictional law of the jurisdiction area of the parking lot, if he had pulled in beside us, and we'd parked, and then he parked beside us, but he parked right behind us. He pinned us in, which was hilarious. So ironic, because there was two people in a little hatchback right beside where my brother Jarvis parked. And so when this cop Keating pulled in behind, literally pinning our car, he pinned them in. So right there's two witnesses, like right there. They even admitted in trial, even the judge was like, oh, there was two people in this car. Didn't get any witness statements. But if the cop had pulled beside us, like parked beside us, and then basically we get out of the car and he'd said, hey boys, I think there's something wrong with your car. And we could have, told him, hey. And then he could have basically been a real jerk, and he could have waited until we got back in the car, finished our dinner, picked up our mail, drove back onto the highway, the road, and then he could have pulled us over. He could have turned on his flashing red and blue lights, activated his siren, and then when you do that, when you turn on the blue lights, the flashing blue lights, that activates the cameras, in a 30-second. They're always on record. And then as soon as he hits the cameras or the lights, the camera then kicks back 30 seconds so they can catch what's going on. And then he could have pulled us over and said, your car doesn't have the proper licensing, doesn't have the proper insurance or registration. And so you're driving without insurance. You're driving without registration. It has nothing to do with criminal. But he believed because we had a license plate that wasn't matching the car and we didn't have any insurance, he convinced himself, because all these people watch, the Hollywood dramas and everyone's a terrorist and they're the good guys. And because they're the good guys, everyone is a bad guy. And so he basically put his foot in his mouth, and then they covered for him. And the whole thing has been one gigantic cover up. And I wrote a book about it. There was nothing else I could do. I wasn't getting I wasn't getting anywhere with any of these people. I went through 2 appeals courts. They said I was moot. Judge Curry said my whole situation was moot and redundant. And I mean, these people, for lack of a better term, these people hate us, especially the ones who try to stand up for themselves. Especially,
I've heard that. Michael Jackson, the guy in Saskatchewan, he said the same thing. He goes like, the moment you try to confront them, they lose their minds. Like the police go insane.
Yeah, and I don't even know if they will ever show the audio and video. It would break the entire police station. It would break everything. I'll break Canada over my leg, because it's completely what they did to me, and what they've done and they've continued to do is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable that they could get away with all of this, and they have. They've gotten away with it it'll be 13 years in August. My face was smashed. I had blood coming out everywhere. They had me pinned down. I was like, the blood was running down the back of my throat. They were sitting on my chest. I literally thought for a few seconds that I would be like choking and like suffocating on my own blood. And then they have the audacity to be like, yeah, he's spitting blood. He's spitting blood. And then you see when I go to it's in my book and it's on the page. And they took me to jail. And there's like 7 cops. I was handcuffed and everything. They went through all my pockets and everything, put me in a squad car. There was 7 police. Took me out of the car in the bottom of they call it the Sally Port, in the basement of the police station. And you want to talk about threats and intimidation? I'll let anybody go and watch that and see what these people. I was handcuffed, and yet they figured I'd do like John Wick. I'd pull like some guns out or something, and just
kill 3 people with a pencil.
Right, right, and yeah, but they're the good guys. They're the good guys, and that's the bottom line. There's no gray area there. They're the good guys, which by default makes you a bad guy. And this whole thing, they never even once. I mean, everyone, the courts are the worst, but they never even had any like human sympathy. You know what I mean? Like they never even were like, man, James, like tell me more about your story. They disrespected the shit out of me. They kicked the shit out of me. And then they disrespected the shit out of me. And so I was forced to write the book. I was like, you think I'm a dumb, stupid ass plumber? Well, I'll show you. And here we are. And Payman, once again, man, thank you so much, because no one has
You're too kind. So a couple of things. First, there's a guy in the comments, Danny McLean. Danny, it seems like you're telling me a story, but I can't follow it while I'm talking to James. Maybe email me, info@paymanascari.ca. I have one last question, James, before moving on to the court case.
Okay.
Is it a criminal offense? Like if you drive without a license plate, is that criminal, or is that something else?
Yeah, it's just a safety offense ticket. It's just a traffic
Okay.
safety. It's part. I had to put that in my book. It was a really difficult situation because I didn't know how much to load my book with like the foundation for people, because I was the same way. Like I went and got my driver's license when I was like 16, 17 or whatever. And, I just do it, you don't even think, And most people haven't even looked through it, but I tried to highlight certain things that I did my reading. I did my research and went through the Traffic Safety Act. And that was what it was you're coerced. It's like a coercion. You have to sign your car. You register with the crown. Excuse me, the queen, right? The monarchy. It's no longer your car. You're registering. Like if you buy a microwave, do you register your microwave? But they register your gun and they register your car. But if I go buy doesn't even matter. But this is what they do because they just want the money. And then every year, oh, your insurance needs to be renewed, or your driver's license. Nothing's changed on it. I mean, I still live in the same place. I'm still the same person, but it's every 5 years. Oh, yeah, pay some more money. And this is what they do. And everything, especially in Canada, America, I'm not speaking if you have an American audience. You guys are certainly different. Although the way things are going, it looks like we're going to be Americans soon. Don't want to go there. But as far as Canada goes, everything has been basically show me the money, commoditized, and that's where we are. And
I like that. I like that phrase you're using, commoditized. I look at it differently. Like you mentioned earlier that in common law, sort of natural law, there has to be a victim. Like me driving without a license or license plate, who's the victim? Like, who's being hurt there?
Absolutely. And I made a mention of that in my book as well. And I'm glad you said that, because one of the things they do, and I'm sure some of my my readers, but your listeners, your audience can attest to, is when you get a speeding ticket and you go and you pay it to the court, one of the things they have is they call it victim surcharge. It's a victim surcharge. So you pay your $50, $100 ticket, and then you pay a victim surcharge. And that's the rub, because you're coerced into paying that. And so why would you pay? And this is like almost like a rhetorical question, Payman, but why would you pay a victim surcharge on top of your speeding ticket if there was no victim? But because in the legal frame of our lives, and I'm not going there, I'm not a lawyer, but then because you paid it, there must have been a victim. Why would you have paid the victim surcharge if there wasn't a victim? And I'm sure there's lots of people. I never got. I think I got one speeding ticket.
I see what you mean. It's like somebody saying apologize for offending my wife, and you're like, you know what? I'll just apologize if it makes you feel better, and then you're almost admitting that you did it.
Yeah, right. And then they can basically, that becomes law, because why would you pay a victim surcharge if there was no victim? There must have been a victim. We don't know who that victim is, but you paid the victim surcharge. And that's, I've seen judges all the time the gavel down in traffic court. And traffic court's another thing. It's not a real court, but you paid the victim surcharge because you were speeding or you didn't have your seatbelt. Part of this was like the seatbelt thing. I was like, why do I wear a seatbelt? Like half the time, if your car's on fire, I want to get out. Or you fall in the lake, I don't want a seatbelt. I don't want something. But this is what they do. And they get you with a seatbelt violation. And I've had a few of those for sure. And then they make you pay the victim surcharge. And this is all part of it. It's all the money. And so why would you pay a victim surcharge if there was no victim? And that makes it legal or makes it lawful. And that's sort of where we are. So it's all these things. It's been an incredible experience for me. And this, we could unpack this for the next, 3 weeks. I just hope people read my book and get an idea of what's happening to them and how the media and the government and the police are being used as weapons against us. And here we are when my brother and I were 100% in the right. Oh, sure, we didn't have insurance on our car. Fine. If I had gotten into a crazy accident, I would have had to pay that. Or now we have like no fault insurance, so it doesn't matter anyway. But if that, it's like if you're driving drunk, I could have the most insurance on my car. I could have like the premium. I could have, if you're drunk, does the insurance company go to jail for you? No. If anything, you're drunk because then they say, well, it's criminal. You haven't hurt anybody. You've just been drunk. But, no insurance. So my brother's like, this is like a contradiction in terms. Like it's this or that. It's this or that. And anyway, this is where we are. So
in your book, was it you that mentioned that Mothers Against Drunk Driving was a propaganda campaign that made it criminal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible, but it's a very poignant example, because like back in the day, you could drive home drunk. There was, everybody's going to get upset now. But you could drive home. If you hit somebody, regardless, if you hit somebody, you're going to do jail or you're going to do time, regardless if you're drunk or not. But this was one more way that they could basically finagle their way into your life. And then they use Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And oh, look what you've done. So if you drive home drunk and you make it home, like I said before, live your life, or cause no harm, do no loss, and live your life. And so if you drive home from the bar, pickled, but you make it home, did anybody get hurt? No. But now, what was Jody Wilson-Raybould not so long ago? Now the police can come to your house after 20 minutes later. Oh yeah, we got a call that you were drunk leaving the bar, and we'd like you to do a breathalyzer. And it's a total invasion of privacy. But this is where Canada has gone, and it's a perfect example of what my brother and I were saying. Like this has no good endings here. Like this is only getting worse and worse. These people are just continuing to get in and invade your life. And so Mothers Against Drunk Driving was this heartstring moment that, oh, well, drinking and driving is terrible and it kills people. Yeah, when somebody crashes and dies, we had laws on the books that took care of that. But now, like I said, do no harm, cause no loss, live your life, but not anymore. Oh, and then here's the rub too, because then you blow into a breathalyzer, and the freaking thing is it's like a microchip. It's got like a computer processor in it, right? So like two things are going to happen. One, you don't even know if it's just going to ring the lottery on you. Like it's their word against yours. Like, here, blow into this, and let's see if we can fuck you over. Like blow into this, and we'll decide if we're taking you to jail now. Even if you have like half of whatever. Oh, well, we'll just suspend you for 24 hours. We'll suspend your license for 20. How am I going to get work tomorrow? Like I know I can go drink a beer and have a burger after work. I'm a big guy. One beer, whatever. But there's some alcohol in your breath. Suspended license for 30 days. Pay this, pay that, and here we are. And this is
there's a video. It's
I had to
American.
Use that example.
I'll give you another one. It's from the 80s. This is when America still had freedom. At least they had more freedom. And the guy was complaining. He's like, they're changing the laws. So now, a guy's worked 8 hours a day and he wants to have a couple of beers on the drive home and he can't do it. And he said, we're turning into a communist country. Now, I mean, it's your car. It's your body. You shouldn't drink and drive. It's dangerous. But as long as you're not killing anybody, like what the hell's going on with all these laws?
Right. I mean, I know plenty of guys, big guys. What did they say back in the day, though? The World Wrestling Federation, Andre the Giant, that guy could drink like 24 beers and it didn't even faze him. And, but you're exactly right. You shouldn't drink and drive. Why? Maybe I'm a little nervous. Maybe a couple beers makes me feel better. Maybe for whatever reason, it's your individual, what do we talk? Individual freedoms and liberties, right? And until you do no harm or cause no loss, and as long as you do that, how can they come after you? But this is what they've done, and they've basically weaseled their way into our lives and into basically anything. And yeah, I mean, it's we could sit here and talk about all kinds of. I wanted to use Mothers Against Drunk Driving because it really just sort of drove my point home. But it's so emotional, right? They've got. Canadians in general, we're inundated with emotional triggers, and because of that, people will do things on an emotional level and not a logical level. COVID, the jab, but anyway, so we have these emotional things that they have done to us, and here's where we are. And so that's my story. They beat me up in the parking lot. They took us back to jail, and then they kept me in jail for 18 hours. They didn't let me see a justice of the peace until the next day. They didn't tell me why I was being arrested. They never once said why I had been arrested. They just basically literally kicked my ass, smashed my face, tried to break so many things, guy. Like, I really wish there's somebody that maybe watched this that is in the FBI or the something that they can be like, hey, we'll track down the audio and video from all those cars, because those cars had Bluetooth and wireless, that stuff is instantly sent to the headquarters, to the detachment. The cameras were called Panasonic Arbitrator 360s. And we learned all this, so much information we learned later through disclosure, going to this pre-trial mediation and trying to get all the information that we could possibly get to defend ourselves. And so the Panasonic 360, or Panasonic Arbitrator, it's a wonderful name, Arbitrator, 360. So you kind of have to assume it's got a 360 look about it. It's got an internal microphone for the inside of the car. So if I'm screaming and, yelling threats, or there's a microphone that picks up the outside area of the car. And then most importantly, there's a wireless microphone that the police officer wears. And so let's say he has to, park the car and chase a suspect on foot. And he's got a wireless microphone. And I think it was at least 1 or 2 kilometer radius. But this all happened in a parking lot. Like we're talking like 10 cars in like 25, 30 feet. Like the second car that came to the scene was another unmarked car. And they said, oh, there was no audio, video, the cameras, they hadn't been installed yet. And that car almost ran me over. And those two cops both had their hands on me. They were both supposed to have wireless microphones. And of course we have nothing. But I would love to see the other camera views. They just cherry picked the one Constable Keating's car. I would love to see all the other camera views and just see the blood coming out of my nose, my smashed face, and just what they did to me. What they told me. Like, you'll see my picture in my mugshot, and I had to clean my own face in the stupid little drinking fountain in my cell. They didn't give me any medical attention whatsoever. You can bring up at the bottom of the book, if you go to book or whatever, on my go back to your.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
I'll just to that, and then right there. And so I had to clean it. That's the next day, right? And that mugshot, they took that mugshot before they'd even told me any of my charges. So like they were processing me. They wouldn't tell me anything. I put pictures in my book because I'm asking people, like, what are you doing here? Like what is going on here? And so I had to put all that in the book. But yeah, they basically smashed me all to pieces. And so I would love, and then if you look at go back to my mugshot. If you go back to my mugshot, you'll see my ear, my one ear is all cauliflowered. I guess, yeah. And so at one point, because they all thought I was the bad guy. And so at one point, after I'm already handcuffed and I'm already down and I'm already proned out and the blood's coming out everywhere, I don't know who it was. I'll never know who it was because I had face full of pavement. But some motherfucker, and I pardon my French, but he was a motherfucker. He dropped a knee basically right on me. I remember seeing the one foot, the boot, and then all of a sudden he dropped a knee basically right on me. And that ear was the one on the ground. And he ground my one ear on the other ear, and he ground it into the ground. And he said, "How do you like that, you fucking douchebag?" And I was just like, the blood's coming out, my heart rate's pounding. Like, I don't know what these people are capable of. They're capable of anything, man, because they'll get completely off scot-free. Like no one will see. There's all these cops. Like, it's just they're what's the word I'm looking for? They are off the hook, but they are just like there's no accountability. They're completely unaccountable, and we are basically at the mercy of these people. And this is what I learned from this. Like, it's a very scary situation when you figure out they could have pepper sprayed me, and they could have basically had a situation where my throat would have been I was almost like asphyxiated, and they sat on my chest. You want to try to get a breath after you've been smacked around, and then somebody just sits on your chest. Like a grown man just sits right on your chest. You try to take a breath. I'm just glad I was strong enough and I'm a big enough guy that I was able to get enough. I mean, my nose is bleeding, so you're trying to breathe through your mouth, but you're on the ground. So the blood's running down the back of your throat, and you're still trying to breathe. And they call it, in the media, I've seen this plenty of times, excited delirium. And, it's my fault because I was so excited in delirium and he was on drugs. And it's their word against ours. And there's no protection because they threw away all the audio and the video. And here we are. So anyway, that's, if that makes any sense, I feel like I'm running, just going off sometimes. But
no, it's fine. So my question, let's move on to the court case. You mentioned that they used violence against you, but they didn't file a whatever use of violence report. So when you tell... Yeah, but like when you tell the judge, you said, "Judge, they're supposed to do this. They didn't do this." In a perfect world, shouldn't the judge be like, "Sorry, this case is dismissed. You didn't follow protocol"? Or how did the judge rationalize siding with the cops?
He didn't even rationalize. He was all on board. He was all on board. As far as he was concerned, I was the bad guy. And through the graces of God and my wit, there's one point in the criminal trial where I basically said to there was two cops. There was Constable McAvoy and Constable Schaefer, that they had said that I assaulted them. Those are the two cops, peace officers that I assaulted. Mm-hmm. And at one point I said, it's in the criminal trial. You can go look at it. pretty much word for word. I basically said, so Constable McVoy, or so Sir, or whatever. How, when, and where did I assault you? And he choked. He went, ah. He just made a like, and my brother was like, it's like a herp derp, like herp derp, like, and the judge was like, oh, there's no assault, was there? And you could tell he was like stunned. He was like, oh, there's no assault, was there? And then the court, the lady typing, the court, I'm gonna lose the word.
Stenographer?
Yeah, that's what she's doing it. And they've been to all these cases, right? Like they listen and they know. And it's like this tell, like it's literally like the best poker or non-poker face ever, because she says, how late are we staying today? As in like it's over. Like James just fucking flattened. It's like Columbo, you know, just one more question. Just one more question. And she's literally, and it's in the criminal change. She's like, how late are we staying today? Because basically her brain is like, well, this is over. Like, you're fucked. It's over. And he was like, oh well, we're gonna move those assaults, but we're still gonna get you for obstruction. And then at some point I'm just like, excuse me? Because they even talk about that. They talk about the totality, where you take all these charges.
I saw that. Yeah, I've never. Who uses that word?
Crown prosecutors, who like Bryce Pashovitz, who just want to fuck people. But yeah. And so they stuck me with obstruction, and they found me guilty of obstruction, even though I never got near the guy. And the judge basically then was like, well, you made the cop's job more difficult. Didn't cite anything. There was never a written decision showing his thought process, and no law that had been, in the past saying, oh, well, based on this case and this case and this case, it would appear that Mr. James Stewart did indeed, but there's nothing. And I literally made sure to stay away from the guy, just stay back. And it was, but oh yeah, you're guilty of obstruction, and that's that, and guilty. And then my second book, because I sued them civilly, and that's a whole nother one, but they used that against me. They were like, oh yeah, well, Judge R.S. Smith was another, and he basically said, oh yeah, well, they're justified because you were found guilty of obstruction. So what did he say? He said, so they roughed you up a bit. They roughed you up a bit. It didn't say anything about the two assault charges that they tried to pin me with, the fraudulent assault charges, and what they did to me and put me in jail for 18 hours, didn't let me call a lawyer, didn't give me any medical attention, didn't even tell me what I was being charged with until the next day. Complete and total, like we were going back to the Middle Ages. Like literally, this is back to the Middle Ages, like before the Magna Carta, where they can just do whatever they want. We don't like you, so we're just gonna, hang you or whatever. But yeah, this is literally what's happened, Payman, and it's all I can do now is to tell my story. So thank you, sir, for having me on.
No worries. When I was reading your book, another thing that struck me, you were the back and forth between the judge and what he was trying to understand. Like it almost seems like if there's an arrest going on and I turn to the cop, I'm like, hey, buddy, what the hell are you doing? Boom, I'm a criminal. He was splitting hairs to determine if he could convict you of assaulting the police officer.
100%. I had to write a note because I was basically like, there was a total lack of discernment. Like this judge completely, like he was rude and obnoxious and an antagonist for one, like nowhere near an unbiased arbiter at all. But he didn't even hold their feet to the fire. Like he didn't even. It was like nothing but their reasons were nothing but contradictory to one another. Like I said, they used force, but no use of force reports. They accused me of trying to get sympathy from the crowd, but there's no witness statements. And what was the other one? It was no critical thought. Like there was no, like he didn't even, like whatever the cop said, he was just like, okay. And then conversely, Jarvis, my brother, he went on the stand and they nitpicked the shit out of him. He'd never been on the stand for anything. My brother had never been, neither one of us had been ever involved with the police at all. And so it's a pretty stressful environment, pretty stressful situation. And so we wrote like a letter being like, hey, this is what happened. Like this is and it was all he could, literally the judge said, I don't believe you, Jarvis, because James would have done something different in the video. And it's just like, man, like Jarvis wasn't even in the video. Like I got out of the car and I walk around the car and the judge is basically Jarvis is being disingenuous and Jarvis is being, and it's just like, man, like what kind of an asshole does this?
I gotta ask now. I don't know if you mentioned this in your book. Was it trial by jury or by judge?
Oh no, just trial by judge. They coerced us into it. Yeah, no, not trial. I got a trial by jury when I went to civil trial, the Court of Queen's Bench, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, no trial. They coerced us into a trial. You can read it. There's the criminal trial. There was nothing but hijinks, nothing but legalese and mumbo jumbo and yeah, they just run us through, and they hated us. It cost me a lot of money. It cost us both a lot of time and money, like the amount of time that they wasted on us. And there was at one point there, and I remember Mike Jackson and I think Shelley, Agent Blue Sky was talking about it. And there's this Judge Rook.
Rook the Crook.
Crook. And so they tried to pull it, and I put this in my book. Because they were like, it was this guy Ritter. This guy Ritter was first. He was the first crown prosecutor. And this is what they do. It's like this chain of command. So this Robin Ritter was in first, and then he just happens to disappear. And the next thing you know, Bryce Pashevitz is on the scene. And then lo and behold, Bryce Pashevitz has no idea what happened between you and Ritter and, what was happening in those previous, mediation dates. But anyway, we wanted audio and video. We wanted and they were being so coy. We can't get this, we can't get that, and then we basically said, look, we need use of force reports. If your cameras don't work or the cameras weren't working, then there should have been a technical, you would have had an IT guy come in and fix the camera, or they would have had a receipt for getting the technical difficulties fixed. And he literally, this Robin Ritter, another motherfucker. He said, it's like Meads versus Meads, Your Honor. They're just asking for all this crazy paperwork and information. And you're like, dude, I'm asking for the audio and the video. And then even the judge was like, audio and video. I'm like, man, my camera records audio and video at the same time. How can we possibly be having this argument about not having any audio? But when you look at it and you boil it back right down to the beginning, the cop says he chirped his sirens and he didn't. And he says Jarvis didn't identify himself, which he did. The whole thing is over in 10 seconds.
To me, this seems like the judge could have just thrown out the case. He'd be like, it's clear you guys have no idea what you're doing. If you keep bringing these BS cases, I'm going to dismiss all of them.
Yep. And then so it's off the record. And it's Barry Singer, and he gallops off into the sunset. And there's no accountability whatsoever. And I don't even know if this would have happened in America. I don't even know but it happened in Canada. It happened, it blew my mind. But it also helped me. I'm not going to say it helped me find God or anything like that, because I think I knew He was always there. But it really just opened my eyes to the sinister. Absolute sinisterness of what people are capable of, and the thin blue line. And I don't even want to go into who runs this country and who runs the courts. We're not going to get into that. But this is basically we're the enemy. We're the enemy of these people. They hate us, and they'll do anything they can to keep us under the thumb. And that's what. And like you said, is with your other guests and stuff. They will do whatever they can to financially burden you. They will go after you outside of court and harass and threaten and intimidate. And then when you say, hey, whoa, they're doing this thing. Oh, how dare you threaten us? We're gonna drop the fucking hammer on you. And you're like, guy, I'm just trying to live my life. But here we are. So welcome to the
James,
new Canada.
Let's go to some of the audience questions. So Josephine Pesculi she says hello. She's from New York.
Hello,
hey,
Josephine.
Prairie is wondering if you have a channel with these videos up anywhere.
I do. Thank you. It's just called, if you want to go to my website, I have a YouTube channel. There's a little link at the bottom. If you can show them as well, Payman, on my the home page, when you went back to the very beginning, it just said there was a dark picture. Go to home, and then down below, you can click that, absolutely, and that'll bring up my. And so Those are the and so if you scroll to the right on, you'll see the one with the that's the footage. Right there, that one where they're pointing, that's the 22-minute. Yeah, that's the one. That basically shows the only video we got from 10 cars. That's the only one. No, and there's no audio, which is the most bizarre thing going unless you're trying to cover up crimes. And they basically committed aggravated assault against me. Like, not only did they beat me up, but then once I was down and once I was handcuffed, they continued to punish me. And like that, man, I'm telling you what, guy, I don't know how many people have been like flattened for one and had their ass kicked, but then you get completely handcuffed and then they start doing more things to you. That is a very, very scary situation. When you've got blood coming out of you, it's hard to breathe, and they're just taking it out on you because they all got their adrenaline up and they were all there to save Keating, and that's when I said, when the guy literally dropped his knee like on my head, boom, and you can see in the picture my ear is just cauliflowered, and that was after they smashed me. I thought my nose was broken. I thought they knocked my teeth out. By the grace of God, they didn't. My mother would be furious. These perfect teeth, but yeah, man, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is a situation where like that is aggravated. That is the definition of aggravated assault, and these people have gotten away with it. It's yeah.
So
there's the
we got a funny comment from Danimal M, the thin blue lion.
100%.
Fundamental justice. This is I Trevor Halsworth, if I remembering the
I
name
know
right.
fundamental. Hey, guy, thanks for following.
So the presumption of guilt for the citizen, the assumption of innocence for the authority.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
They could do no wrong. They could do no wrong. When you go and I have the recordings too, like the tone of voice that these people used in the court, like the judge, like the way he was, like it's just, and yeah, whatever they said, oh yeah, and then anything, especially my brother, because I refused to take the witness stand. I was like, fuck no and don't. Like, I am not even getting up there. Like, you're not even gonna get me close. I even said that. I said he can get the ball rolling. Like, I'm innocent until proven guilty. I've heard nothing but lies from these people. I'm not getting up on the witness stand. There's like, they need to prove my guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's just a rule that they can.
Here's another one. Here's one from Danny McLean. They want you to pay an attorney so they can take your life savings. Those attorneys are part of the bar, which is not.
It's a big club, and you're not.
You're not in it.
Yeah. You're not in it. And they hit you with that club. Absolutely, Danny. Absolutely. And you know what? I'm glad Danny said that because I wanted to make a mention of that because I heard horrible stories from Mike Jackson and Agent and Shelley, Agent Blue Sky, where, oh yeah, just get the lawyer and talk to, like, I had so many friends. Why didn't you get a lawyer? Well, because they're part of the system and they'll drag you out and they'll suck your blood and then you've got nothing left. And then they'll be like, oh, well, sucks to be you. And so my brother and I were like, no way. And so we worked, and there were nights when I was like, my brain was coming out of my ears trying to read things and just navigate the legalese and all the stuff that was going on because I refused to just hand over, you know what I mean? Like, just hand over myself. And so we self-represented, or I represented myself, however you want to term.
Check this out. Danny McLean's guy. They appointed me a public defender. I found 2 months prior was a Richland County prosecutor, had been for 5 years, and was actually friends with the prosecutor.
Right? What a great game! What a great game when you can't lose. Oh.
I found 5 to 6 photos of them together side by side. Reminds me of Michael Jackson. He found his lawyer almost making out with another lawyer.
Man, guy, I feel you, man. I feel you. One day we'll go for lunch. Yeah, it's crazy what these people will do. And then, like, there's no humanity anymore. Like, these people, they don't care what they do to you. They don't care the hardship. They don't care anything. And like my brother and I had to give up days at work to go to court. And then you're there for 15 minutes and they're like, oh, well, I guess We'll get that another day. And you're like, man, I took the whole day off work. Like I'm looking for audio and video. Like it should be pretty basic. Like it's just a recording. Oh, you'll have to come back in a month, you know. And, anyway, free lesson. Wasn't really free. I owe tens of thousands of dollars. I'm still working on, and you know, the debt, right? And the interest payments, and they just get you under the thumb. And this is what they do to people. And thankfully, I've got a good job. Like I was telling you earlier, like I'm a Red Seal plumber. I'm a gas fitter. I'm a tradesman. And I just crush it, man. I just get up every morning and I just go and crush it out. And I try to pay off a little bit as I can. And if anybody wants to buy a T-shirt, I'm going to try to sell them because I'm not looking for charity, right? Like this isn't like I need to make enough money so I can publish my book, and that's going to cost me some bucks. But I'm not looking for charity or anything like that. Like if you want to give me some money, I would happily give you a T-shirt. I think that's where I am with this. Like I'm not looking for anyone's like sympathy. I'm looking for people to like take action and like take the power back. It sounds so cliched, but until people like stand up for themselves, like until people say, hey, like no, like it's a joke. I say in the alphabet, the English alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No.
N-O.
N-O. No. People have to learn to start saying no. And it would be like, I hate to bring it up. COVID. No. This is not happening. You're not going to coerce us into this. No. It would have been over in days, right? But this is what the media does. This is what the courts do. You know, they pressure people and they put restaurant people out of business and all this stuff. And this is what's happened. And here we are. And so, but thank you for all the people that are watching. I feel you. Thank you. Anyway, where would you like to go from here?
Well, I guess we're past the 1 hour mark, and wrapping it up. What happened to you guys? Did you guys ever end up having to do jail time?
Just that night. So like that, it was 7 o'clock at night, and you can see in the very first video there's a timestamp, and then they didn't let us out till like 1 o'clock the next day. And I've put that all in my book. You know, anybody can read it. Please go and read it. I've never written a book before. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But I wrote it on there, and yeah, they let us out the next day. So I basically did like 18 hours in jail, like, you know, whatever, solitary, like in the drunk tank, whatever you want to call it. But I shouldn't have. That's, you know, it's an abduction. There's absolutely no reason I should have ever left that parking lot. But this is what they do. And they took my shoes off. I froze. I had a stupid little black mat. They had the air conditioning just cranked. You can see people walking by with jackets on. The guy beside me, whoever it was, he had like a knapsack and like shoes on. They took my belt. They took my hoodie. They took my hat. They took all my belongings. They took my shoes. So I froze. I literally, like, I was freezing, shivering. Everything was sweaty and bloody. And they didn't give me any medical attention whatsoever. I got a little bit of McDonald's, you know, some scrap food like the next day. And I wouldn't wish any of this on my worst enemies. I wouldn't. And that's what happened.
Yeah, that was one of the questions Prairie asked earlier was, did they give you medical attention? So Prairie, no, they didn't. No. Yeah, I guess we can wrap up the episode, but what message do you want to leave for Canadians? You mentioned it won't stop until they stand up, take it away.
No, totally. Absolutely. I guess through Twitter, there's a couple like FAFO. Everybody's very fond of this. Fuck around and find out, right? And so this FAFO, and there's two cases, because there's a website called Canley, CANLII. I think it's .org, canley.org. And it's basically the Canadian Legal Institute. Like you go to trial, you go to court, you know, they publish it, what happened. And so there's a woman her name was Amy Affleck. She's a nurse or whatever in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. And this is the interesting part, because that was where Constable Keating, the first officer who initiated all this, he basically charged her with assault. After she was, you know, what I said earlier, they'll just turn you into a criminal. They'll just do whatever they can to turn you into a criminal. And people, I got more almost hate from like female profiles on Twitter. They're like, oh, you deserved it. Nah, you deserved it. Or their favorite is just capital F, capital A, capital F, capital O. Fuck around and find out. And I'm like, no, I didn't fuck around. you know. But this is what we've done to each other now. There's no humanity left in Canada. And then another guy, because after the situation with Amy Affleck in Nova Scotia, and you can look this up. The case number is NSPC 51 2010, and it's R versus Affleck. And then they shipped Keating out of there, and then he showed up in Saskatoon, and then Pascal Mertens, it's a MERTINS, and it was a SKPC 183 in 2012. And basically, you look at those two people, you go look at those two cases, and they'll turn you into a criminal. And Keating even said, oh, he took a swing with his Pascal Mertens. And the only reason Pascal Mertens got away, or not even got away, that's not the right term, got off, is because he had a friend who saw the whole interaction with the cop. And Jay Keating was ready to lie through his teeth and send this guy. And what we talked about was drunk driving. And the guy, this Pascal Mertens, had literally gone to the grocery store to get like some milk for his kid. Like, you can't make this shit up, literally. And so he'd had a couple beers after work, and then the wife is like, hey, you need to go get something. And so Constable Jay Keating, and this is all in the criminal decision, and which I didn't get any of that, but this Pascal Mertens, and Jay Keating said he took a swing at me, and so I had to armbar him and throw him down, and this Pascal Mertens friend saw the whole thing, and that's the only reason Pascal Mertens was able to get off those charges. And this is what we talked about, where drunk driving, we're going to turn you into a criminal. And if you don't think it can happen to you, you're sadly mistaken, because it happened to Amy Affleck, who was just a nurse, and this Pascal Mertens, who was like an engineer. And if you don't think it can happen to you, you are sadly mistaken. And so really that's all I really have to say to that. You know what I mean? Like, this is, it doesn't end until you say no.
You know what this reminds me of? It's like you see these dramatized movies about Mississippi in the 20s where the white sheriff figures these two colored boys for a robbery. Right? No evidence is fabricated. Right? Guy spends like 80 years in jail.
I think I wrote that on my website or whatever. I said, this is a bad B movie. This is so bad that people would walk out of the theater. They'd be like, this is
totally implausible. Yeah, it's implausible.
Right? This is unplausible. This is stupid. There's no way this would happen. There has to be checks and balances. No, you are at the mercy of the man, the law, the state, and they will put the boot on you as well. What did George Orwell say? Just imagine the future, a boot on the side of your head. Well, it was a knee for me, and it was, how do you like that, douchebag? That, you know, I didn't like it at all. Actually, it actually hurt, and it was dehumanizing, and I didn't deserve any of that. And the media is in on it, the courts are in on it, the politicians are in on it. They won't touch it, and of course, I'm gonna
ask you a strange question, and it might be difficult for you to answer. Have you ever watched these videos of cartels, like Mexican cartels, when they're about to execute their enemies? Have you seen any of them?
Maybe a little. I try not to watch that kind of stuff.
It really keeps me up at night, but it's insane. Like the cartel's like, all right, we're going to cut off your head. Please, remove your shirt, remove your shoes, and they just casually do it. Put your hands behind your back, strap, and then they kill him. And it's almost like what the cops want. They're like, hands in the air. We're going to put your handcuffs on you, and you have to be completely docile. You have absolutely no rights. Do what we say, and then we'll deal with it.
Yeah, you know what? 100%. And even in that Amy Affleck case, R versus Affleck, when you read that case on Canley or whatever, the Crown prosecutor is literally like accusing her of abusing the cops because of her language. And you're like, you can see through it where you're like, these cops are being assholes, and it just so happens to be Jay Keating, and then he got transferred. And the ironic story is because Amy Affleck's father, Keating was like New Glasgow Police. But Amy Affleck's father was the staff sergeant of the RCMP detachment in the next town over. So she has familiarity with cops and aggressive behavior and attitude. And so the Crown prosecutor in that case, because you can read it, you'll never read it about mine because there's nothing there, but you can read her case where they're basically like accusing her of abusing the cops because she's basically, I wasn't there obviously, but she's probably like, hey, assholes, like, why don't you chill out? Why don't you relax? But this is the Crown prosecutor accusing someone of abusing the cops by using foul language. And
But
this
they
is
did
where
that
we
with
go.
you. No,
Yeah.
they did that with you too. Remember, it was hindering a police officer's ability to work, and the judge is like, "Well, James was, I don't know, he was rude. He's making his life hard. Can we throw him in jail for that?" He didn't say that. What he said is,
Yeah.
technically, that's not illegal, which is his way of saying, "I want to make it illegal."
Dude, right? There were so many Freudian slips with that judge where it's like his training would keep kicking in and be like, "Oh, I can't do that," but then he just override himself. Like there was. If anyone has any legal or lawful like lawyers out there and they can read it, like I'm happy to hear what you have to say, because the whole thing was just, I'd hate to use the term like a clusterfuck, but I'm going to use it because I had absolutely zero protection and zero ability to stand up for myself. And even when I did, then they just used that against me. And so for the end, I'm unafraid. I will always be. And as God is my witness, like he's the one who gave this to me, because I have the strength to see this through. He gave me the shoulders to see this through. And so help me God, I'm going to see this through. Even if it takes me another 20 years, even if I have to go, knock on Donald Trump's door. Hey, Don Trump. Hey, buddy, listen, there's some shit going on in Canada. Can you give me a hand here? FBI, somebody. But I am unafraid, and I will always be unafraid. And what these people did to me was completely unacceptable. And I plan on seeing it through to the end, whatever that may take me. And Payman, once again, my friend, thank you so much for having me.
I'm not doing much, man, but we got a hashtag out of it. Hashtag unafraid. There you go.
Sure.
Make it happen.
Thank you.
James, I wanted to thank you very much for coming on. I had a really fun time. The audience seems to love you, and I wish you the best of luck in getting your story out.
Hey, thanks a lot. And they can go read it. Just call me Stu. You can read it. I have a little message thing. So if you like it, if it makes you laugh out loud, I'd be happy to hear what you have to say. It's been a lonely journey. Yeah.
Hang in there, buddy. You'll make it through. And James, do you want people to reach out to you? How do they get a hold of you?
Through the website, by all means. There's an email thing there, and they can just contact me there. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. But
it's okay.
Contact me there, and it'll link to my email. And I work 9 to 5. I work 40 hours a week. I don't have a ton of time, but I'll do my best to say hi and get back to you. And just go to my website. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I guess on behalf of all Canadians, I wanted to apologize for the way the RCMP and the police have treated you.
The Saskatoon Police Service.
Saskatoon Police. Let's hope for better days moving forward.
Thank you. Absolutely, Payman. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.